This is why. Hello, Blackhawks fans. Happy Friday night and welcome to the Four Feathers podcast. I am GM Ron, that guy to, I guess I'm looking at you on my left, but you're in theory that way of me, which is right.
I'm on your side.
You're on my side. This is Tony Marchese. Tony, my friend, we got a spicy, juicy, content-filled show ahead of us. But how are you doing, my friend? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Ronald. Cheers. Cheers to you. And it is going to be a spicy show. There's a couple of hot topics today, Ron. A couple of hot topics we got. How are you doing on this fine February Friday? It's starting to get a little lighter out later. I can feel spring coming, Ron.
Spring is coming, and it is coming quickly. I'll tell you what, it felt nice today. I took Mr. Kai for a walk this afternoon, and it actually felt good to be outside for the first time in a hot minute. So I'm right there with you, man. I mean, almost 40 degrees was the high today. It felt pretty good. Spring is slowly approaching, which means a couple of things. It means the NHL trade deadline, which you know I love. It means start of baseball season, which we root for opposing teams in the city, Tony. But it also means kind of maybe in my opinion, the best stretch of hockey for a team that's rebuilding, because you continue to get little glimpses toward the future. And I'm hoping we get to see an Anton Frondel at some point this season. But not to get ahead of ourselves, Tony, let's breeze over what's happened since our last show, at least really quick, before we really dive into the weeds and the meat and potatoes of today. 1-3-1 in the last 5. That shootout loss to the Minnesota Wild is 100% on the games that want backtracker.
Do we have that? Do we have that officially recorded on?
It is officially recorded as of this afternoon. That was a no-brainer.
Yep, I agree.
Given how that went, blowing a 3-0 lead to lose that game, and then you get beat to shit in Pittsburgh, and then you come home and you lay an egg. You and I were both at that game. I mean, outside of the Nazar and Bedard goals, nothing special, nothing that gets you all that excited about the state of the team. But they get one back. Fuck the Sharks, man. The San Jose Sharks. That was a fun game. That was good hockey. You were in attendance for that one, Tone. That was a banger for you. But then they followed it up with a sleepwalk again against Columbus, this time in Columbus, a 4-0 shutout. Add insult to injury, literally in all senses. Why Kaiser could be out for a long, long time.
That looked bad.
Is day to day. It did look bad, and that sucks. And we'll talk a little bit more about the whole Kaiser thing and how that kind of sets the team up going forward. And we'll do a little bit, forward looking in this as we approach the Olympic break, Tone. But where do you stand? Just a quick little synopsis here. What are Tony Marchese's conclusions after the last 5? Has our position on anything wavered since the last show?
Not entirely. I really want to say the biggest takeaway out of that was, Wyatt Kaiser. Happy Friday, Daniel. Getting injured. That's, like I said, it looked bad, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about that and how it sets the team up going forward, like you said. It's just been a roller coaster lately, man. It's the highs are high and the lows are low. There's no way around it. And it feels like for every one step forward, there's kind of one or two steps back. Not always two steps back, but there's a step back. I want to see this team start to figure out how to put together a little bit of a run like they were on earlier in the season. I'm not really expecting playoffs at this point in time, but at the same point, man, it feels like every time we're talking, we're throwing games on the games that want backtracker now all of a sudden. And that's frustrating. We've also now seen a couple of times, and I think, human nature, they're heading into the Olympic break. Everybody outside of Teuvo Teravainen is getting, at least 2 weeks off before they even have to practice again. You can kind of look at that as a trap game, but holy shit, man, they did not even show up to play that day. It was sort of embarrassing. And, as a fan, you're sitting there on your couch. It's an away game. You want to see the Hawks play one game before you don't get to watch them play for 3 weeks. And, you've got essential pieces of the team getting injured. Doesn't look good. No one else out there is really trying to play competitive hockey, it feels like. And then you start getting the voices riled up. Like, I don't know where you're at here yet, Ron, but I'm starting to see the coalition of people who are going to start to question things like Jeff Blashill as the coaching hire. And I thought we have a little bit longer of a runway maybe with this to really evaluate things. But I want to say that's probably the second or third game so far that they really didn't show up to play. And when a team doesn't show up like that, and granted, there's reasons why it could have happened, but you just beat San Jose on Monday night.
Yeah.
And what was a great game. You kept the foot on the gas there. Where was it in Columbus?
Yeah. I think all fair questions.
It's Jekyll and Hyde hockey, man.
It really is. And I'll tell you what, I have thought quite a bit about this as well. Really, to me, this is what happens when a young team that really hasn't played this much hockey, especially in this short of amount of time ever. And they're kind of getting that steam lost. My dad's 100% right. They've run out of gas. These young guys are not ready for it. The older guys are playing more minutes than they're used to. Some of them are gassed. The team's just kind of gassed. And that's just unfortunately where I'm at with it. It's kind of the inevitable happened, right? They ran out of steam. Some guys are a little beat up. I think in Columbus, they're also learning how to deal with adversity. I think the Kaiser injury took the wind out of their sails completely, because I got to see the start of that game. It didn't look that bad in the first couple minutes, and then as soon as Kaiser got hurt, it just looked like they lost their best friend, and they were sleepwalking through the rest of that game. They're learning as a team how to overcome adversity and overcome being tired, overcome a potentially significant injury to one of your teammates, especially somebody who Lebowski says here in the comments things could quietly be the Hawks' #1 defenseman of the future, Wyatt Kaiser. I think he's at least a part of your top 4. He's at least earned that trial for the foreseeable future until somebody knocks him off. That's a bit of a devastating injury for this young team right now. And I think they're also hearing the whispers and the chatter now, the deadline. I think that's getting to some guys, and not even necessarily the veterans who know it's a business. Maybe even some of the young guys that just, again, you're learning what it's like to be in the business of it. Your teammates are getting traded and shipped off to other places, and losing guys in the locker room 3 and 4 consecutive years is demoralizing. I think that's just the state of the team right now. And they really need kind of to make a little bit of a sprint here at the end. Tone, it's kind of what I said earlier in the season. This is the team that I want teams to fear in March. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make the playoffs, but they're playing really good hockey down the stretch because they're well rested. They're healed, right? We've heard from Jeff Blashill that Bedard is going to begin taking faceoffs after the Olympic break, which means Nazar is going to go back to another line. Does that help with the offense? Maybe. That line was really fun to watch, though. I'd love to see them do it again, especially as more talent gets to this roster. I just think that's the state of it is right now. It's like they ran out of gas, man. Like they were kind of already playing with house money. And I think they've it's finally caught up to them a little bit. I think they're really feeling it. And it sucks. It's almost demoralizing as a fan too, because you're just like, man, like it kind of feels like they're just getting kicked in the balls at this
A little
point.
bit.
You
A
know,
little bit.
it's a little bit demoralizing right now. And again, we're as a fan base hearing the trade chatter. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about that later. It's frustrating. And then I think on top of it, Tony, should we just get this thing going?
We could. I mean, I feel bad because I know this is what everybody wants to talk about, but this is kind of a downer show right now.
This is kind of a downer
it's
show.
It's going to go even more towards the direction of downward.
Yes.
Play it, Ron. Let's go.
Let's go.
It's time to ruffle some feathers.
Tony, we were all just casually scrolling the interwebs of Blackhawks hockey this morning.
What a wild morning, too. For a Friday when the team's off. Yeah.
Yeah. Frank Saravelli tweets out essentially the draft odds at this state of the season with the Olympic break becoming official. All of a sudden, everybody's looking at it, and Florida, who technically sits in the 10th worst position in the league, have a protected pick for 2026. And every Blackhawks fan went, wait, that cannot be right. This pick was only going to slide if they didn't have a 26 pick, which they ended up letting the 2025 pick be forfeited and keeping their 26, which allowed them to keep that. Nobody reported, Anthony, a trade that happened nearly a year ago, or pretty much a year ago at this point, reported anything about it until today, where Frank Saravelli unintentionally started an absolute war in the Blackhawks community today.
Was it unintentional?
I don't know. And
I'll question that. Question everything. It's always good to ask questions.
It is good to ask questions. But Tony, so apparently, if the Florida Panthers continue to struggle, and I've got some thoughts on that note, but I want to give you the floor here first. Apparently, the Blackhawks, there's a world where they can't pick twice in the first round this year because Florida's that bad. This is not so much about the trade and the detail. It's the fact this hasn't been reported in a year, Tone. This is important information that normally the fans get to hear about, and it's public. This was very much kept hush-hush under the radar, that it was top 10 protected, and then all of a sudden, boom, today it becomes largely public knowledge to probably most people that this is a little bit of an asterisk on this pick, Tone. And I think it just like you kind of said, right? The show was already down. We're going to make it more down. I think it was just kind of another kick in the balls.
Here's my problem. This is where I want to ruffle some feathers. The Blackhawks had to have known about this, right? One would think that Kyle Davidson threw down the organization when you report on the official press release. It should have mentioned what the details were. The official press release, not buried somewhere in contractual language that the common fan isn't going to be able to see. It creates distrust. That's my problem. If they knew about it and just, let it ride, I'm sure they knew that not only were multiple people out there on podcast shows, the whole entire beat staff was completely in the dark on this. The national insiders as well. The Hawks and Panthers had to have known about this, or was it buried somewhere in a contract and Kyle Davidson got burned on it once Florida fell into this 10th spot And Hawks fans start to get all excited because, oh my God, now there's a chance that we get 2 picks in the top 10. Our guy, the prospect Don, who's been on this show, was on tankathon.com, I think 2 days ago, and did a couple of draft simulations. And at one point, it showed the Hawks in the first 2 picks. And Hawks fans are getting really excited because here's a chance the Hawks could run the table at the draft. And not that it would happen, but just that the fact that there's a chance and you're getting people excited. And then, like a day or 2 later, you get this report that comes out and Frank Saravelli's like, well, here's how it actually is. It creates distrust. That's all I'm saying. And if the Hawks knew about it this whole time and didn't, maybe they were just hoping, it's out of the top 10. We pick, we get through this without people finding this out. Well, guess what? Florida put themselves in a position where hockey fans who are, really into the NHL draft and scouting prospects and all of this, you start to get this momentum ride. Well, now all of a sudden, here it is. There is no 2 top 10 picks for the Blackhawks. That's not even on the table anymore.
Yep.
That's kind of a gut punch. It changes the way that trade feels.
I don't know if, to me, it changes the way the trade feels. Truthfully, I'm still okay with the trade, even if at the time, because here's the other thing, Tone.
Expected them to get like the 28th pick,
right?
Right.
I think so. Everybody kind of knew, like, hey, this, and let's be honest. I will give credit. I actually did my due diligence for once. Remember how I always say I saw something on Twitter and I can't give proper credit because I always forget who said it?
Yeah.
I can't do that today. I got it here.
You did your homework.
I did my homework. This is from Jimmy O'Malley. He's at Malley Jimmy on X. He says, I don't think Blackhawks fans should overthink the top 10 protection on the Florida pick. Simple reason being the Panthers are not going to tank. They were in on Panarin and will buy at the deadline. The odds of them finishing bottom 10 are small. And I honestly completely agree with that. That's also a team that's gassed. Hasn't had Matthew Tkachuk or Alexander Barkov for a majority of the season and still hung around the playoff race. Like, they're not just going to sit back because they're built to win now.
It's funny, though, because you see some of the Florida Panthers fans out there. And I was just in Florida talking to a couple of Panthers fans while I was down there. And they're kind of down on this team. Now I expect, like you said, they'll buy at the deadline and try and get themselves into the playoffs. And, once you're in and see where it goes. But, there's a lot of negativity surrounding that team. And that was a positive jolt for them now to think about, even if you do miss the playoffs and you find yourself in a position, you still secure a top 10 pick. I don't know. It just feels like the rich get richer sometimes, and that's a plausible scenario, I guess, as well, too.
Yeah, I mean, they're kicking it down the can. You know what it really was? It was just probably really luck timing where they're like, you know what? We're really beat up this year. Maybe we're down next year. Maybe we build this in just in case we're horrendous. But I don't think they're in that mindset of like, oh, we're just going to tank now and waste a season. You're not going to waste a prime season of Matthew Tkachuk or Seth Jones or Sergei Bobrovsky for sure, because
certainly teams would never waste players in their prime having MVP caliber seasons. Ron, we've never seen that happen before.
Yes, we've never seen that happen before. But like when you really think about that, they kind of got lucky. And it also shows, Tony, I think this is the most important note, and this is giving love to a player that I've always loved from afar. Alexander Barkov is one of the best players in the NHL, and you cannot even begin to question that. Because this team the Florida Panthers are different without Alexander Barkov. And they're still loaded. Like, Sam Reinhart's a stud. Matthew Tkachuk, he's missed most of the season. He's finally come back. He's a stud. They have Verhaeghe, who's a stud. They have incredible talent up in the lineup. That's why they've been able to survive and pace at this all-time high without a lot of guys because of the talent on that roster. But holy shit. Do they miss number 16, man? that he is their Jonathan Taves and maybe then some in terms of just the role he plays. Right? Because like Taves was a top offensive performer too, but you know, the secondary stuff, the defensive, the face-offs, that kind of like that really bled
The
out.
things that don't
Captaincy.
always show up on the stat sheet either.
Alexander Barkov plays a two-way game and like still puts up 100 points. He's crazy. I think, and you know what's even better about that trade or that draft pick, Tony? It was laughed at the time. Everybody's like, "What the fuck are they doing taking this Barkov kid at number 4?" Or pardon me, number 2. And it was Dale Talon that made the draft pick. And you better believe Dale Talon was looking at him being like, he might be a better Taves. And he kind of has become one. He's sick,
Isn't
man.
Dale Talon really good at building hockey teams, man?
He is. He's really good at it. And then Stan Bowman's really good at crashing the Ferrari, but we can save that for another time. I like this comparison. Hossa at the center position for Barkov. I agree. He's nasty. And you're right. He does it like a finesse way, very much like Haas did. Wasn't always physical or wasn't always, Taves was just all out, balls to the walls, 100 out of 100. Chicago's going to be a force in the next 3 seasons. I certainly hope so. They should be. They've got talent coming. They should be a lot of fun. And they need but Florida also shows you need a deep team in order to compete. The Hawks lost guys this year. That's when the play turned around. And, again, I think it's a bit of a kick in the dick, but it doesn't change the trade, but yeah, it can. I guess it can change the way you feel about it. But
I agree with Lebowski here. I'm just going to say it doesn't feel like it's that fleecing that you had at one point, because here we are, 24 hours ago, man, you're sitting there probably, Thursday night, 10 o'clock, going to bed thinking, this is trending in the right direction for the Hawks. Maybe it's not, guaranteed to be, 1-2, but is there a chance that the Hawks are able to get 2 top 10 picks in a draft that's been considered by all means to be somewhat of a deeper talent pool? How much can we add? How much NHL ready talent can we inject into this thing right now? I don't think you're injecting someone straight into your lineup from that Florida pick next year. So, I mean, it is an asset that you potentially lose.
I think
in that first round, man, I think it's
here. I think here's a way to think about it, because to your point, Tony, you mentioned this a little bit earlier as well. You said, well, most people expected this pick to be a late first anyway. You said 28, right? Was the number I believe you spit out. So let's say that's the case. And that's what they got this year. Let's say the Hawks struggle down the stretch. Let's say they get like the 5th or 6th pick in the draft. And then they've got 28. Are you really excited about that 28th pick? When we know Kyle Davidson loves to trade back into the back end of the first round, and he can do that because he has 3 second-round picks this year. And now think about it this way. If it does slide, you have that pick that you can fire away from next year and still keep your own pick. Who's to say they don't do that to maybe move up and make a big trade to take a big swing? I don't know. I think there's ways of looking at it and being like, well, it'll be okay.
It's not we'll put it this way. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely, like we started out this segment, you called it a little bit of a kick in the dick, it's not it's not the same as what we had 24 hours ago. And I guess the biggest problem with it is it still goes back to the fact that the Hawks either had to have known about this and never corrected it from the get-go to set expectations. They just let people run with it. And if they didn't know, that's sort of criminal malpractice from your front office. And people should be upset about it. It's one or the other.
Yep.
You
I
either
agree.
lied to us and strung us along, or you were criminally incompetent at your job and didn't know about it until Frank Saravelli found out about it, probably through sources from Florida. Neither are a good look.
He honestly might have gotten the source from inside the Hawks building. He's on CHSN so often. I'm sure he's made a couple of friends on that set.
I swear, man, and I can't pull the tape, but we were talking about this beforehand too. And when this went down, and a lot of people weren't able to tune into CHSN last year,
Mhm.
I feel like there was a time, at least I remember it. Maybe my brain's just making it up at this point, but I feel like they sort of talked about that it was top 10 protected on the show, but how many people were tuning in at that point in time? And, I feverishly tried to search the internet to go back and try and find stuff. I even dropped in our Slack today the official trade report from Frank Saravelli when this went down. Here's what he said. Trade details per sources. Time to hunt. Florida, Seth Jones, 2026 fourth round pick to Blackhawks, 2026 first round pick. Goalie Spencer Knight. Hawks retain $2.5 million on Jones for the next 5 seasons. Pick slides to 2027 if Florida doesn't have a 2026. Nowhere does it say T10 protected. Nowhere.
Yep. And he's not the only one, right? Everybody else said that they reported as was. Ben Pope is out here apologizing to people, which I don't think Ben Pope's necessarily at fault here. There was clearly a lack of or miscommunication by someone where this was not public knowledge, because that pretty much always happens with things like this. And again, maybe they were like, the pick's not going to be top 10 anyway. What are we worried about? But I feel like you still got to let that be known. Because then at that point, I think, Tony, even if you disclose that at the time, people still kind of giggle and go, oh, okay, Florida's going to be in the top 10 next year after just winning the cup. Maybe, but probably not. Right? I think even then it still changes the attitude, because everybody's like, okay, Florida's covering their ass.
So here's where things sort of were weird. This was March 1st when this trade went down. The Chicago and this is from the Blackhawks website. The Chicago Blackhawks today announced that the team has acquired goaltender Spencer Knight and a conditional 2026 first round pick from the Florida Panthers in exchange for defenseman Seth Jones and a 2026 fourth round pick. In addition, Chicago will retain 26% of Jones' salary. Goes on to talk about, the different, stats and history behind both of the players and their time in the league, whatnot.
Yeah.
No one ever really disclosed what those conditions were. Apparently, you have to wait a year to figure out what the conditions are.
Apparently you do. It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. I'll tell you what, it caught fire today. That was a very hot topic this morning. Like you said, it was a very chatter-filled Friday compared to the usual news cycle, and especially on an off day, as you mentioned, from the Hawks. Tone, we still got a lot of juicy topics to talk about, but let's talk about one that's kind of mandatory at this point. The Olympic break is officially here. That's the title of tonight's show. It's time for the Blackhawks to rest, because it is the Olympic break. And as you mentioned, Teuvo Teravainen, one of 3, I'll call it organizational members, who are representing their countries in the Olympics. So he is the only one from the NHL roster, Teuvo Teravainen. He's representing his home country of Finland. Adam Gajan will represent Czechia as a part of the Olympic roster, and he's obviously in college at this point. And Anders Sorensen, assistant coach for the Blackhawks, will represent his home country of Sweden. So they're all heading to Milan. And outside of that, though, as you mentioned, Tony, everybody's chilling for at least 2 weeks, and guys are getting healthy, and guys are just resting, because this team is tired. And I'll tell you what, though, Tone, I am excited to watch Olympic hockey. It has been a long time since we've gotten NHLers in the Olympics. And for that reason, I think that's why I'm even more excited, because of just the high level of hockey I think we're going to get. Some of these guys are going to show off and show out. And I don't know about you, Tone. There's a nostalgia about, back in the day when the Blackhawks were good and a bunch of these guys went and represented their countries in the Olympics and they still won a Stanley Cup because that team was just a horse of a team. There's something to be said about your best players going and playing internationally. It's almost like a superpower sometimes in a year you're going for a Stanley Cup, and we've seen it as Blackhawks fans. But I am genuinely excited to watch Olympic hockey. Tony, what is a storyline that you're looking to keep an eye on in the Olympics here? It does not have to be Blackhawk related, just in general.
I mean, definitely the easy one is, can the USA go out there and put themselves on a run and defeat Canada in a final? I mean, look, we go back to the Four Nations face-off, right? That was some of the most electric hockey, I think, for the sport. Some of the most electric hockey where you had both countries tuned in and locked to their televisions for prime time hockey matchups. There's going to be a little bit more competition in here, but there's definitely the USA-Canada rivalry. It was renewed a little bit when you get these NHL players playing and representing their countries, and it was high-intensity hockey, and it was good for the sport, in my opinion. I know a lot of people sometimes don't get in on, international hockey, but I've always watched, the World Juniors, IHF, and pretty much anytime you get international competition, I'm watching Team USA, I'm watching Canada, I'm watching as much as I can of it. I enjoy watching Finland play hockey too, as well. They're a good team. So there's going to be a little bit. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult of a path compared to just Four Nations facing off, but USA Canada, man, I want that to be a primetime matchup, and I want it to live up to what they put on it at Four Nations. So that's my storyline I'm watching, because I can't get enough of that. The more of those games, the better, and they come few and far between, Ron.
Absolutely, and I particularly enjoy Scandinavian hockey, so I agree with you. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It will be interesting to see how the U.S. matches up. I feel like they're just not the superior team, truthfully, in my opinion, coming into this thing.
Don't either. And I wish Patrick Kane was there, to be honest with you.
I do as well. He should be wearing the C.
Just gets the record for, what is it, most points by an American-born player. And, a couple weeks after he's not there to represent the United States. I felt like that was sort of criminal. I know his game is still there. It's not as elite MVP caliber as when the Blackhawks wasted that season. Looking back at what we just talked about. But I thought it was fairly criminal that they left him off that roster. And, I think another storyline here too is what's the deal with Connor Bedard not making Team Canada? And I put it this way. I believe it's a better storyline for the Blackhawks for him not to make that team and get fully healthy. Blashill talked about how he's going to resume taking faceoffs after the Olympic break. And so while not actually like on ice Olympic stuff, it's, can Connor Bedard rest up, get healthy, and go on a stretch run for our Blackhawks once this Olympic break is over? I think that's, neither here nor there when it comes to the politics of the Canadian selection system. I'm not entirely abreast of that situation, but it just seems like very interesting that one of the game's young budding stars was not included on that roster. And there's a lot of people who are upset about that one. I don't know if you're in that camp or not.
Tony, I am not upset, only for the reason that he gets to heal and come back at full strength, because he obviously hasn't been that for quite some time now. And Tony, I'll make the argument. Remember Jeff Blashill's reaction to when Bedard got actually quote hurt and left the game against St. Louis? He was like, yeah, it's something he's kind of been dealing with already. He was playing through it. And there was a little bit of a dip before he took that cross check right to the freaking shoulders of like, yeah, he was still scoring at a high rate, but there was starting to be a little bit of a slowdown. And so if you really think about it, Tony, I think he would have been taken if he was fully healthy because he was in the top 5 in points for a hot minute with Celebrini, with McKinnon, with McDavid, right? And a lot of those
And
guys.
even at that time, though, they were talking about how, he's not the highest on Canada's list. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Again, Canada is stacked, so it's not like they're not a stacked roster. I think next time around for the Olympics, he's going. And I would be appalled if he wasn't by that time. So we'll have to wait and see.
Hopefully.
Speaking of Canadian hockey players, Tony, we've had some discussions about, the Hawks' chances of, having 2 top 10 picks and moving up in the draft, and all this stuff's happening. It's a weird time. It's right after the McKenna news, and that's something that we have. It's two-pronged for the McKenna news here as we discuss it tonight. For starters, the situation, what happened, right? The reports are out there. College student instigates saying terrible things at his mom. He decides.
You can't say things about someone else's mom in a bar.
That's true. That's 100% true. But I'll tell you what, it was, he didn't want to have it. It happened. And then today, Tone, the news comes out that, all right, no charges are being pressed, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know if it's no charges. I wasn't following this as close as you were. I heard they dropped the felony assault charge. I don't know if there's any misdemeanors hanging around there.
I don't know. I don't know if there is either.
All I know is he's no longer facing 20 years in prison, which
is key, a very key aspect of this whole thing.
Yes.
But so he's okay. He's in a bad limelight. We talked about it before we jumped on. The Hawks don't like bad PR right now, ever, in any capacity. But then there was reports that come out today that the Hawks maybe were never truly going to take McKenna as their top choice anyway. Because there's been some, quote unquote character things that teams don't like or whatever the case might be. But there's only one name that I could even pretend to think. I have a tinfoil hat theory that could preside a second name. But I think there's one name that would be above McKenna on that list.
Go for it. Let the people hear it.
And it's Stenberg. That's it. That's the only one. That's the only one I can genuinely make an argument for. However, I will.
Let's play this game. Hawks win the draft lottery. Are you going Stenberg 1 overall?
I don't have to make that decision, Tony, because I don't want to make that decision.
But you're GM Ron, man. You're GM Ron. I know. I want you to make the decision.
I know you do. And
if the draft's today and you have the number 1 pick, who are you taking, GM Ron? Are you taking Stenberg or are you going Gavin McKenna? For me, it's Gavin McKenna, hands down.
I'll tell you what. Maybe
related to Bedard, there's storylines there. Consensus number 1 up until this point. Yes, you've got this off-ice issue. Yeah, you want to see how the legal system plays this one out, but it's already starting to trend back in the direction for the player. To hear today, and the way that this sort of slips out too is interesting because it comes on the heels of the news, and I believe Lebowski 55 had said the timing is weird with it because Scott Powers drops it in this Blackhawks update that you get today from The Athletic. Mm-hmm. And one of his bullet points is this is before obviously the felony is dropped, but it comes out this morning that the Hawks were unlikely to draft him, and the language here is key. Was it the fact that the Hawks were unlikely to draft him because you only have a 7 to 14% chance of getting number 1 overall?
Mm-hmm.
and then the assault charges on top of it. Okay, now the Hawks are going to back away. Is that the unlikely to take him? But then there was Ben Pope sort of doubled down on this because he's on vacation in Hawaii, and hope Ben Pope's enjoying his time out there. I love tropical locations, Ben Pope. I don't know if he listens to the show, but if you do, enjoy your time out in Hawaii. He's talking to someone who lives out in Hawaii, he's a Hawks fan, and asked him sort of in passing, like, what's this about the Hawks not being in on McKenna? And Pope sort of replies back and says, yeah, they're not really that high on him. So you're getting beat writers that are around this team who, kind of have this inkling that the Hawks don't really like McKenna. It's not the same as when we went into the Connor Bedard draft, right? Like, you knew if you were getting number one, you're getting Connor Bedard. It feels like every other NHL fan base that's out there that's tanking for, being miserable for McKenna.
Competing for McKenna.
Competing for the number one overall draft pick, as the Blackhawks seem to do every year these days. It was just wild to hear, like, okay, here's a kid that's potential consensus number one overall. And if we remove all of the off-ice stuff, they're not really that high on him. I feel like that's a great way to enrage your fan base.
I think, though, that's part of the thing with McKenna. You're saying, like, oh, they don't like him because of the off-ice stuff. I think that's exactly what it is, because I think that's just how the Hawks look at hockey players. I think they're looking at it in a sense of, like, is he worth the risk? And again, not saying that's right or wrong, but I think that's what's going on here with McKenna and the Hawks. And I think they also don't expect to be in a position to get McKenna anyway. Right? So maybe there is just some, like,
you might have just lost your best defender for the rest of the season.
You might have. And Tony, I'll tell you what. I will tell you what. If the Hawks somehow got, let's say, to like 2 or 3 in the draft, and let's say McKenna goes 1, or the crazy thing happens and McKenna doesn't go number 1.
Say somebody passes on him.
Let's say it's Stenberg, right? Just hypothetically speaking. This is the tinfoil hat now. If the Hawks were number 2, would they go Keaton Verhoff because Artem Levshinov's development is not where they were probably hoping it would be? He's a right-handed defenseman.
And this is where I scream.
But it's a question.
It should have been the Ruffle Some Feathers segment. Good Lord.
It's a question we have to ask. Would they possibly do that? Maybe try to trade.
But here's now we're at the point where, like, you've already, it's not over yet. Artem Levshinov is by no means a bust yet.
No.
We're a long way away from that happening. Maybe not, though, because look how fast it was applied to Kevin Korchinski. We're very patient people around here in Chicago. Man, where does the offense come from if you go Keaton Verhoff? Because I know, Artem Levshinov hasn't really taken that step. The game's a little erratic. Let's see if we can double down on this. But, like, how many of these things are you going to acquire in first-round draft picks that don't end up working out, or potentially don't end up working out, and we rush into, other decisions? If you're having problems, this is just my argument to it, Ron. If you're having problems developing these right-handed defensemen, and you need to bench your second overall pick in the draft for 3 or 4, like, that's kind of an indictment on how they've handled this so far. And I know Artem Levshinov isn't, here in the system to go to Rockford and do that. Like, he was very clear he wanted to play in the NHL. But if you're having trouble cracking the NHL lineup, And Kevin Korchinski, look at the history here. Every time he comes up and makes a mistake, it's like, let's put the microscope on him. This is bad. What are we doing to change that? What's the plan here? You're trying it 3 times? And like the third time's a charm. I get it. But holy shit, man. Figure that out. I think that you would see a very, very upset Chicago Blackhawks fan base if they take a right-handed defenseman in the top 3.
I think so too. Again, I'm out here to, I guess, to ruffle more feathers. Tone, this has been a really downer show.
Well, you walk into the break off of a sleeper game and you kind of get this news about the draft pick thing, and then we're not in on the top player. It doesn't scream we're trying to win as soon as possible.
Sure.
And I get it. Kyle Davidson has said, we're committed to the young guys and we're doing this. But again, every time in this rebuild so far, it feels like one step forward, couple steps back, and then it's moving forward. I was surprised by the poll, Ron. Did you see the poll? I believe it was Pope put out there about a week ago. Where are you at with the Blackhawks rebuild? Do you think it's going too fast, at the right speed, or too slow? I think there was like 40 or 50% of the people who voted in that had said they feel that it's going at the right speed. And then, the other majority in there out of the 3 it was going too slow, with very few people saying it's going too fast. I think that came in at like 3 or 5%, somewhere around there.
Oof.
But I'm surprised that a lot of people are okay with the pace of this thus far. And I know you're probably in the camp that says that it's going at the right speed. You're a little more patient than most.
I am in that camp. I do think it's going at a fine speed. I don't think that, we knew this season, if they were even close to a playoff spot, it was a huge win. And yeah, guilty says it sounds like the Hawks are moving like a Bulls. Now, I don't know about that. The Chicago
I don't know
Bulls,
about that, guilty. Yeah.
There has been some legendary criticism of the Chicago Bulls front office. It feels like maybe the Hawks are getting some of the Bulls stank from being in the UC together, and just like the waft of a Jerry Reinsdorf owned team just is like getting into them, because it's just negative all of a sudden. It's like somebody microwaved fish in the office microwave, and it just stank up the floor. Like, that's what this feels like right now. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Never microwave fish in an office.
Never, ever. That is a cardinal sin. But no, I think it's going at a fine speed, Tone. And you know what else? If you don't mind us transitioning, because we do have more to talk about here. And
yeah,
we could continue about the Gavin McKenna stuff, but that'll be something fascinating to follow. Another right-handed defenseman came up for a couple of Couturier games, and Sam Renzel.
Yes,
he's back down. He's going to play in the AHL for the month and keep getting games under his belt. He looked a lot better.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
I think he's quickly learning. He's like, I don't need to make the sexy play every single time. Sometimes
he's pretty good at making the sexy play sometimes, though.
He is,
and I think he got a little comfortable with it after his cup of coffee last season when we started this year.
I think you're right. I think you're 100% right, Tone. And I'm excited to see what he does. He's going to get another chance on the roster. He's going to. And we'll elaborate on that further here. But
I want to go into this and talk about why Sam Renzel was up, though, Ron, because we did our homework. In fact, you did your homework on this one, and we talked about this. I think Artem Levshunov would be in Rockford right now if it weren't for this Olympic break.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why. And I think you were dead on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't know about it, but this actually was made public, Tony, like right away when it became known and official.
Reading's a skill. You've got that skill, Ron. You read?
We can still read around here. And if a player played for 16 of 20 games preceding the break, they cannot be sent down at the freeze. Artem Levshov absolutely met that criteria. Guys could be sent down if they were under that number, or if they were, called up quickly and sent down, or like Nick Lardis, who was sent down early enough where he can go play in Rockford and he's good. They're like, yeah, let's give Sam Renzel a cup of coffee. And they scratched Artem Levshunov. And he looked good. He scored a really sexy goal against the Sharks, man. I don't know how they left him that open in the high slot, but that was fun. What a shot from Sam Renzel when you give the guy space.
So this begs the question, Ryan. We get back from the Olympic break. Is Artem Levshunov on a bus to Rockford after this break, or is he inserted right back in the lineup? This is, for all means, like, I don't want to get into final grades for the season, but if there's one guy that's in danger of C, D, potential F season for me, it's Artem Levshunov this year. Because you've seen some really weird shit. You've gotten we're getting scratched because we're late to practice. You've got the instrumental breakdowns leading to yourself getting benched as a number 2 overall. And again, room to grow, right? That's what you sort of want from a kid that age, room to grow. But like, I don't know where you're at with him right now, but I've got him at like a C- currently for the season.
I think that's a pretty fair grade. I really do, because he's flashed, right? We've seen the flash. You can see why he was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Like, there are signs. It's not completely for naught. He's also still really young and kind of got thrust into this thing a little faster than maybe he probably should have. And some of that, again, as you noted a little bit earlier, is probably by choice or potentially by choice. I think they have to have the honest conversation with him and say, look, man, we want you to be a part of this thing.
It's the same conversation they probably have had with Kevin Korchinski, so they should be experienced in it.
100%. But I think with him, though, they needed to say, hey, dude, just go down and work on these things. The trade deadline's coming up quickly. You got like a week and a half of games in Rockford. And if you look better because you've been working hard during this breakdown in Florida and training, then you're right back up once Connor Murphy, Matt Grzelcyk probably get traded. And that kind of transitions us into the trade chatter stuff here, Tone, is Kaiser gets hurt. People wonder, is this the time where they keep a Connor Murphy or keep a Matt Grzelcyk? I don't think that's the case. I think they let those guys go. Del Mastro, Korchinski potentially, certainly Levshunov coming back to the lineup, or Zell. And if no Kaiser, you can let all those young guys just play and say, all right, go out there and do what you've been working on. Prove to us, like, who's getting spots next year. They wanted to keep competition. That's the way they're going to keep the competition going. You can't just let these veterans just take a roster spot. No, let these kids go for it. Now's the time. You got a very important couple of picks coming up this year. You got a lot of second-round capital. Where are you utilizing? Are you taking some shots on some second-round defensemen because Levshunov's not where he needs to be and Korchinski's not where you were hoping he would be? And let's not forget, they're all young, right? Alex Vlasic's going to be 25 next year, and he's going to be the oldest guy on the blue line. They're such a young group right now. It just begs the question, are they like, they're going to give these guys a chance. I think that's how they're approaching the deadline. If they can get assets for guys that open spots explicitly for these young guys sitting in Rockford, they're going to do it. And I think that includes Nick Lardis getting an opportunity. I think that includes a handful of other guys.
Frondell.
Yeah, possibly Anton Frondell if if he's able to come over in time for at least a few games, I really do think they're willing to pretty much trade anybody as long as it gets them some kind of value, especially guys on expiring contracts. And the hot topic is, again, are they keeping Mikheyev? Are they trading Mikheyev? Is this going to be a Ryan Donato situation again? Who, by the way, great game against the Sharks for him. Ryan Donato, the hands were filthy for Ryan Donato on Monday night.
Might have been goal of the year.
It was good.
It's up there. Probably one of the highlight reel goals of the year, in my opinion.
Definitely. It definitely makes the burn reel for sure.
Silky mitts.
But Tony, I ask you, I firmly believe amidst the Wyatt Kaiser injury that they're still selling at the deadline for all the reasons that I just noted about letting these young guys come up and giving them a chance. Do you agree, or do you hope they get a little hot? Maybe they keep, even if it's just Grzelcyk, maybe you give Renzel just that other spot that Murphy, no matter what, once Levshinov comes back. What is your feeling?
I think they're still probably selling on Murphy and Grzelcyk. I don't know the value you're going to get back on Grzelcyk, but if you can get a third rounder, maybe a second rounder for Connor Murphy, that one might be more in the player's hands, I think, with Murphy at this point. Do you want to stick around? He's the longest tenured Hawk, so yeah. There's definitely some respect there. I would see a case where Connor Murphy wants to go play for a competitive team and have a cup run. He's already sort of given his, not farewell, to the media and said that, he's rooting for this team and, wants to see the success here. But, for a guy like him, expiring deal, still within a point in his career where he can contribute to a competitive hockey team and go to the playoffs. Look, man, his tenure here hasn't exactly been a lot to write home about in terms of playoff success or even chances to get to the Stanley Cup. It's been difficult. It was a little bit better when he was acquired, but the clock has been ticking on that for a long time. And, I think a move makes sense. It's not really a guy I can see them, giving a multi-year extension to for any reason whatsoever. There's a chance in the offseason if they need to bring back, veteran D presence, he takes the pseudo hometown discount to come here if nobody's interested in his services. But I would think that a lot of NHL teams would probably want to sign a Connor Murphy in a bottom deep pair role and, stick him on that blue line. He's been, for the most part, throughout his career, fairly healthy, fairly productive, still efficient at the defensive role. And I would think that he gets dealt at this deadline and you give that spot to Sam Renzel. I think Grzelcyk is probably a name they're looking to move, maybe a third, fourth, just get this guy off the books and get an asset back. I don't know, Ron. What do you think?
I think even a fifth would be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. Just get him, get him somewhere.
Honestly,
and I think it's just more important to open up a spot and let Kevin Korchinski ride out the rest of the season.
I agree, and I think if you're Matt Grzelcyk, like if you can go be picked up as like a seventh defenseman on a cup team, or even a sixth guy on a cup,
get your ring, man.
Yeah, go get
your ring.
You don't know how many more years you have left. Nobody, unfortunately for him, nobody wanted to sign him. He absolutely earned a spot on the Hawks roster.
And he's played fairly well.
He's had a good season, and I want him to get a go at it, man. Go prove people wrong. You had a great year. Earn another contract. That can help him earn another contract if he plays really well in the playoffs for somebody. Even if it's a fifth round pick, a sixth round pick, let the dude have the opportunity. And again, Kyle Davidson's made it abundantly clear. If a trade allows them to open up a spot for a young guy, and it's not somebody they've identified as a part of the future, i.e. Ryan Donato, Frank Nazar, who they've already paid now, these other guys on entry-level deals, are they extending Ilya Mikheyev? I'm on the extend Jason Dickinson for 2 years train.
Ooh, that one's hot. Yeah, I'm on the extend Ilya Mikheyev train for sure. I've said this on the show plenty of times. I like what he brings to the penalty kill. It's the best in the league right now, and I think he's a huge part of it. I think it would be, people are going to want him. I think you're going to get some offers for him. But, why disrupt a good thing that you have going right now? And I just don't see anybody really stepping into that role. So extend Ilya Mikheyev. Just do it. You have the money.
I'll tell you what. I think Jason Dickinson, is gonna fetch a lot of value at the deadline. There's been a lot of reports already that think he can maybe get you a 2 and a prospect. Shit, if he gets you a 3 and a prospect, I think that's a major win. I'd say move him because, and to your point, Tone, let's say they keep Ilya Mikheyev. Ryan Donato, Ilya Mikheyev with maybe Ryan Green could be a really nice line next year on a team that's going to be pretty young, but you give Green, or do you get weird and give Nazar those guys? I think they're an intriguing veteran pair of wingers that you can pair with one of these young centers. If you're going to in fact keep him around, but I feel like you want to do that sooner than later. Maybe that's something we see them do coming out of the Olympic break. They kind of get all the framework ready, and it's, do you like this? Yes. Okay. Sign. Boom. Done. It'll be interesting to see, because I really think, what if Kyle Davidson offered something miraculous for Mikheyev? Like, is there a world where you get rid of him, or do you value him that highly?
I think the temptation there, by everything we've seen, Kyle Davidson loves draft picks, right? That's the word on the street. I think there's a world where you can. I would like some NHL ready talent back in that deal, personally.
Yeah, I think that's
somebody who's blocked in an organization, maybe. Like you think back to like the Patrick Sharp trade, right? Somebody who hasn't really carved out a role, because Ilya Mikheyev isn't really a household name in Chicago as far as Chicago Blackhawks players go, but damn, if this was a playoff team, people would there'd be a lot of Ilya Mikheyev jerseys out there. I'll tell you that. There would be. And, I think that, you've got to sort of look at this and say, since he's donned the Blackhawks sweater, that PK unit has been damn near elite. And I would go as far as to say it is elite, and a lot of that is from him. So you add him to a playoff caliber team, that's a huge acquisition for anybody who would acquire him. That price should be fairly steep, and I'd like some NHL ready talent coming back in it. Not to say that it works out. Trades are trades. It's a risk. You're taking a risk. I like the known asset in this personal scenario. If I'm Kyle Davidson, knowing that I can ride into next year, get him on a 3-year deal. I think he could be part of a competitive Blackhawks team. I think he's a piece, and that's just where I'm at with it. So it's got to be a good return. Like a second round pick and a 5th round pick to me just doesn't get the job done. And I would sort of hope that the Hawks would have that price a little higher. And if somebody wants to pay a king's ransom for it, then we'll talk.
Yeah. Well put, sir. Well put. I agree. I'm, again, a big fan of Mikheyev, and I think you said it best. There's a lot of things that make sense with bringing him back. Tone, did you see a reaction to the Artemi Panarin trade?
It is what it is. He wasn't coming back to Chicago, that was for sure. But
absolutely not.
It's Artemi Panarin. He's on the move. New York's going to have fun with a rebuild at some point here in the near future, and
they're pretty
God
much
bless
there.
Their souls. God bless their souls, because here we are in year 3, technically 4 of our own little
4 effectively.
4. Yeah, it's dark times. I hope Madison Square Garden can still sell tickets to go watch the New York Rangers play. I'm not losing any sleep over them rebuilding.
No, and I think the city of New York will be fine. The Knicks are still good, and maybe the Giants are on the up and up. We'll have to wait and see. Tony, I will say this. New York got Liam Greentree back in the deal, along with a third and a conditional 4th that might not even happen unless LA goes on a bender run this year.
What is it? Top 130 protected or something, and it'll slide another year.
No, so it's the condition on the 4th round pick is LA has to win 2 playoff rounds for New York to get the 4th.
I will say this. I hate that it's the Kings.
Yeah.
I hate that it's the Kings.
Yeah, I agree.
For better or for worse, I didn't want him to go to Florida because, I thought we were going to get a fucking top 10 pick there for a hot minute. Now I wish he went to Florida. Get us that 15, somewhere between 11 and 15. Panarin go out there and show out. I thought it was interesting though, the way that they sort of handled that was, it felt like an ugly breakup.
Yeah, it really did, and I think on top of it too, they really didn't give the Rangers much of a choice either. He's like, this is where I'll go, and that's it. Or I'm just going to sit here and hit free agency and see you later.
I'm just sort of really happy it wasn't Detroit, because that would have burned a little more than LA. But
fair. It's up there. I will say Liam Greentree has one of the funniest sound bites from the NHL season. Have you seen the sound bite?
I have not, Ron.
They are in the face-off dot on the wing spot closest to the boards, and the Wild player whacks Greentree's stick pre-face-off, and Greentree just fucking shovel shots the guy's stick out of his hands onto the fucking glass. And he's like, "You think I'm fucking scared of you?" It's just an electric moment of competition caught on camera.
Find that one and send it over to me once we're off the air, Ronald. I want to view it.
It's a good one. It's a lot of fun. Tony, a couple quick items before we start to wrap up this show here on this Friday night. Again, happy weekend to everybody. We appreciate everybody joining.
It's been a fun show, Ron.
Yeah. Brad saying here, he believes the Panthers will be the first prior Cup winners to not make the playoffs. Nobody playing this poorly. I think Florida will pick it up after the break. I was thinking. Agreed. 28th pick now. 11 would be great. Sure. Yep. Bunch of 2s. They get 11. Maybe you move up. Yeah, I think all good points as well. I agree. I 100% agree with everything that Brad has to say. Tony, standings update. The Hawks are in no man's land in the standings.
It's not good. It's not good.
They are 11 points out of the basement, but 10 points out of a playoff spot. So they are literally in no man's land right now.
It's sort of separated, man. This was a 5-point swing either way, almost, I think, 2 weeks ago. And the Hawks are they just feel stuck in neutral. And I said this earlier. Yeah. And I'll give, a shout out back to your old man on this one. They ran out of a little bit of gas there. It's just interesting, though, that they're able to turn it up when they do. And I just wish it was a little more consistent. I think that they're where they kind of deserve to be right now. I don't know if that's a weird way to put it, but they're not the worst team in the league. And I think we know that. And that's something that as Hawks fans, we can take as a step forward. They're not the worst, they're not as horrible as they have been.
Not as bad.
Baby steps. But also,
they're kind of a fun bad too.
I don't really know if they're fun bad right now.
Well, maybe not right now, but they were fun bad a little bit earlier.
They were fun bad a little bit earlier. I think they're going to get slightly worse, though. I think the Wyatt Kaiser injury which again does not look good. We're gonna probably not hear anything for a little bit on that one. I say that, and we'll get an update tomorrow. But I would expect that it's gonna take a couple of 2-3 days before we hear anything fairly significant on that. If not until the next time the Blackhawks practice, which I believe is around February 17th.
I believe
somewhere
you are
in there.
correct. I believe you are correct.
So I would imagine that's a hot topic. I mean, that's 11 days away. So depending on what this is, and I don't mean to speculate, but this looked worse than a lot of injuries that I've seen. I would imagine that there's a chance that we don't see Wyatt Kaiser for the rest of the season. That alone probably opens up a roster spot. Maybe we see some Ethan Del Mastro down the stretch, Ron. Just some names that could pop in here. I think your blue line is going to be significantly hampered by this loss. Wyatt Kaiser, by all means, has had, I'm going to talk about player grades, an A season, at least by my account. That production and value to the team is going to be hard to replicate. You probably have, the subtraction of potentially guys you just talked about, Ilya Mikheyev, Connor Murphy, Matt Grzelcyk. You can see Jason Dickinson shipped out of here. I think they're going to fall farther away from a playoff spot. I hate to say that, but that's kind of the writing on the wall, and it's not exactly like what you want. I know you've said a lot of times you think this team's going to be scary in March. I feel a little less like the lion and a little more like the lamb as we're nearing March hockey.
I think they're going to be the Wile E. Coyote. And what I mean by that is they're still going to consistently be outrun by the Roadrunner. But they're going to do it in a really fun way. I think this team's going to score.
Hopefully they show up and play games and score. Connor Bedard getting healthy is key.
Right. I think they're going to score at a clip that makes them fun again, but there's going to be some 6-5 type losses down the stretch.
Any 6-7 losses, Ron?
I hope not. I would say though that I think, and I don't think that's on the goaltending totally either, right? Especially if the blue line's all the young guys and it's just go get them. Go get them, Tiger. You figure it out on your own. I think it's going to be some wild stuff down the stretch. But again, Blackhawks kind of in no man's land. But Tony, speaking of a couple of those young prospects we could see later in the season, do you want to get to our final segment before we continue to look forward after the show?
Sure. Why not? Let's do it.
All right, let's get into it.
Time to give out some stick taps.
Tony, I have a stick tap to give out. I'm just going to hijack the microphone from you really quick.
Go ahead.
Stick taps to CHSN. I don't know if we've given a lot of stick taps to CHSN since it's become a thing. But for this case, I will give them a stick tap because they will be broadcasting the AHL All-Star Game, which is next week, both the skills night as well as the actual game itself. A big reason, it's in Rockford. So Blackhawks fans, if you're itching and have the ability, you can go out there for the All-Star Game, probably drive back the night of too, if you really wanted to, and watch Kevin Korchinski and Nick Lardis partake as a part of the festivities as well. I believe Jim Cornelison singing the national anthem for the actual game. Wayne Messmer, I believe, is singing it for the skills competition. It's kind of a little bit of a who's who for Chicago celebration, at the AHL level. Michael Layton just went into the Ring of Honor down in Rockford, and the Hawks know better. They're like, hey, we're going to broadcast this because they now own the Ice Hogs. So there's a lot of, hey, let's show this off and encourage people to want to see the kids that we're developing and make this Rockford relationship work for them and really bring back the excitement for that. They're always going to draft well. There's always going to be talent in the pool. And that's just how they're going to kind of build their teams, especially early on. I think this is a big stick tap to CHSN for broadcasting this and letting fans that can't get there, you could still tune in. What else are you going to watch? There's no Blackhawks hockey to watch. I don't know if you're watching the Bulls. Sorry, guilty. I know, buddy. I'm there with you. I almost want to watch the Bulls now that they're completely different just to see what it looks like. But Tony, I'll give my stick taps to CHSN. They get a big win on this one.
I agree. I agree with this stick tap, Ron. It's good to see this. In a day and age where, picking up spring training games for teams is becoming increasingly harder to produce and put on the air and do all this. You got the Olympic break. You're going to showcase the Rockford Ice Hogs product to the Chicagoland area, at least through this. I think that's a good win. I think this is a good move to broadcast this on CHSN instead of just, whatever it was going to be broadcast on before. Hey, man, people are excited to see some of this stuff, and you're going to have Nick Lardis is going to be on display there. He's already had a cup of coffee. I believe Korchinski's in this as well.
He is.
So, two Blackhawks prospects will be on display in their hometown for their hometown team. That's a good move. That's a good stick tap, Ron. And you are correct. We haven't given out a lot of CHSN stick taps here on this show. Are you going to tune into this?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to try. Assuming that natural things come up, I think there's a chance it even gets pulled up on the phone if need be. It's going to be on, and I'll tell you what, man, there's not a whole lot I'm going to watch besides some of the Olympic games until the Hawks get back on television. So I'm actually excited to tune into this, Tony. I think it's going to be fun. And again, we're not getting an all-star game this year in the NHL because of the Olympics. So you get one of take in the AHL one, appreciate guys that are hopefully going to continue to be the future of the league, and especially guys as you said, in Rockford that are potential future pieces of the Chicago Blackhawks team when it's a hopeful contender in the future. So it's a good one. It's a good one. Stick tap from you, Tony. Anything else to add?
Stick taps are becoming increasingly hard to find as we get towards this negative show. So this is a little bit difficult, but I think this one's important, and I want to give some stick taps to Connor Murphy for his tenure here in Chicago. I know it's not going to probably end the way that he would have wanted it to, and in a Stanley Cup victory and everything. But man, he's battled, and I think over this recent last stretch, he's done a really good job of propping up his trade value. He's finding the back of the net at a fairly high clip, and I think that's just a really good way if he is moved at the deadline. To sort of, put a bookend on his time in Chicago by scoring a couple of goals, got on the board again in the San Jose game, and that was a fairly controversial trade at the time when it happened.
It sure was.
It was acquired, and I think a lot of people were sort of pissed off about it, for lack of a better term. And he's been the ultimate pro, man. He's been a very, very good veteran presence. He's the first one into any scrum if he's on the ice to protect and stand up for his teammates. For a while there in the post-Kane era, before you had names like Connor Bedard, Connor Murphy was your go-to guy. He's been a Chicago athlete through and through, and if this is pretty much it, might get a couple more games of Connor Murphy. I think I want to just stick tap his tenure here in Chicago. It's been difficult. He's gone through and sat through that rebuild, but been a leader on this team nonetheless. And for better or for worse, I think it's been a great run in Chicago, and I wish him nothing but success, Ron. And just want to stick tap that and call it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a chance there's a Connor Murphy addition to the jersey collection at some point, a necessary one, perhaps a great 100th year anniversary if you can get a hold of it, jersey for Connor Murphy. I'll tell you what, man, I am right there with you. Connor Murphy, that was a controversial trade. I still remember the trade day that it happened because it's also the
I
same
remember
day.
where I was, what I
Yes.
was doing, almost the exact same way I remembered the Artemi Panarin,
Yep. And they
Brandon Saad deal. Yep.
happened in the same day.
I know. That's why I know exactly where I was and what
It
I was
was
doing.
unreal. I could tell you, you know where I was, Tony? I was at a Red Lobster.
Ooh,
That's where I was when that
you
broke.
had a Red Lobster.
I was at a Red Lobster.
Everybody knows where they were that day. I mean, it was sort of just like it was a shocking day.
Yeah.
It's sort of jolting for a lot of Blackhawks fans. And you're getting this young defenseman, very athletic, build, looking, but you're moving pieces, right? Like you're it was sort of a new era almost, with the way that went down. And Stan Bowman made some moves, man.
He sure did. But to your point, though, Nicholas Chalmerson moves on. The Hawks get a player that was here for nearly a decade out of that. And that's
got a lot of run.
Yeah, incredible
Got a lot of
return.
run.
And he's embodied Chicago. Like his wife, I believe, is from Chicago. You know, they live in Chicago full time. They don't go anywhere else. Like he's going to get a job with the organization some way, shape, and form once he retires from hockey. Whether
I would think so.
Broadcasting, whatever he wants to do, if it's in front, hockey ops, they'll give him the opportunity for sure. Because
if he wants it, he's sort of soft spoken a little bit. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I could be wrong. He could come out of hockey and be like a very outspoken guy in the media. Who knows? It could be coaching.
I was gonna say maybe he becomes a coach.
You never know.
Campbell,
but
Campbell does a lot of coaching. Kunitz does a lot of coaching.
He's been a very steady guy that I think gets overlooked a lot. And if you look at this, 10-year period in Blackhawks hockey, he's the only constant. And that says a lot. That's a long time with one organization. And this might be the last chance I get to say stick taps to Connor Murphy. So I wanted to throw that one out there tonight, Ronald.
Hell yeah, man. We love ourselves some Connor Murphy. Tone, what's on tap next? Well, it's the Olympic break. As we noted, the Blackhawks and the rest of the NHL do not resume play until late February. The Hawks are back in action on Thursday, February 26th. They are in Nashville. It's a 7:00 game on CHSN. And then they're back in action again on Saturday, February 28th. That'll be against the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado, a 5:00 start on CHSN. So that's how the Hawks close out February. There is no more Blackhawks hockey for the remainder of this month. It's only February 6th, folks. It's a bit of a break. We're going to take a little bit of a break. I think most people are going to take a little bit of a break, but we'll be back. We'll be sniffing around because there'll surely be rumors during this time off. And we'll be excited when Blackhawks hockey returns. It's a sprint afterwards then, Tone. March, the deadline is about a week later. We'll have to figure out how we're going to operate trade deadline.
There might be a trade center, Ron. We have to see if we can hook up trade center. It's been somewhat of a yearly tradition, if not
pretty close to it.
Pretty close to it. We'll figure it out, but we'll see. We'll see what the schedule holds for trade center.
We will. It'll be awesome. It'll be good stuff. So, Tone, I turn to you one last time. Final thoughts.
A great show, Ron. Happy Friday to everybody. Thank you to everybody who tuned in on this one. I'm just already missing Blackhawks hockey as we sit here tonight, Ron. It's I'm not willing to push past the Olympics. I think it's going to be great. Like I said, love it. But I don't get another Blackhawks game till my birthday, man. And it's going to feel like it was 87 years in between these last games. And the last one left a very bad taste in my mouth. I'm ready to see a couple more couple more wins from this Blackhawks group, and it's going to be hard to get through this month without, a Blackhawks game at least 3 times a week. So bear with it. I know I'm going to be struggling. Ron, might have to find ways to keep ourselves busy here.
Indeed, we will. I look forward to Trade Center. I think it needs to be dusted off again this year. Field of Vision says, is Taves staying home or is he going to play for Canada? He is not going to play for Canada, so he will be chilling during this break, which he's played a lot better since that reunion game, Tone. He was kind of going on a little bit of a heater before that game as well. He's picked it up a little bit. He's got his legs under him.
There were people who were not very happy about Jonathan Taves up in Winnipeg, and I think he sort of quelled it a little bit and picked up his play. But that was a night. That was a great night.
Indeed. Brett says here, great question about Verhoff, but then Katie would be admitting he whiffed on the number 2 overall pick. Don't think so. I agree. Again, tinfoil hat for a good reason. Tony, my final thoughts for everybody is happy Olympic break. Enjoy the Olympic hockey. Tune in, watch all the Olympics. I love the Olympics. It's one of the best things where everybody in the world actually competes, and it's actually like kind of friendly competition, and it's good. It's the purest form of sport, it feels like. It's going to be fun to tune in and see everything that's going on over in Milan. And Tone, I'm going to enjoy the Blackhawks break because I think we all need to recalibrate. We're all a little bit out of gas here watching this Blackhawks team, but I'm excited for March. I'm really excited for March, and we'll be at the UC quite a bit in the month of March as well, and as well into April. And it'll be always a good time at the United Center and here on Four Feathers. Tony, I have nothing else for anybody except to check out On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube and on social media. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button. You know the drill. Follow at Four Feathers Pod. Follow along with all of us during the break, as we'll probably be talking about some off the wall shit over the course of the next couple of weeks to keep ourselves busy. Tony, what do you say, bud? Let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.